Tired. We get tired. God, we get tired. And don't nobody, the folks you would think give a damn, sometimes your kids don't even give a damn. And in the face of such hurt, heartbreak, rejection, confusion, a lot of men are just out here lost. And waking up every day is a miracle. Some people go to sleep and will be all right with not waking up. They don't want to admit it. They don't want to admit it. Don't want to admit that every day is just torture. Men get tired.
This is a part two to the conversation as I reflect on death and remember my mom. You know, my mom didn't die alone. Kevin Samuels famously coined that many would die alone, and while we all will die alone in theory, meaning when our spirit exits our body, we're going to be by ourselves if we stand before the Creator at some point. My mom didn't die alone when it came down to having someone at her bedside. You know, my dad has been a faithful man to my mom for over 50 years. He held her down, he spoiled her. Sometimes I thought he did too much. Sometimes I felt like, he allowed her to get away with stuff like a lot of men do from time to time. But my mom was spoiled, never had to work. My dad sometimes overworked themselves, paying for all the bills at that point where women, deserve to have all bills paid. Because one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about women, modern women not getting all bills paid, because all modern women weren't like my mom. Modern women, most modern women are not virgins. Most have kids. And a lot have a lot of mental baggage and also have been with a lot of men. That wasn't my mother, that wasn't my grandmother. So that's why I don't ascribe to this new foolishness about paying all bills. I'm not paying all bills for a woman that's not a virgin, wife ready, and got kids by other men. And even if she didn't have all of that, it's hard to pay all bills in this economy, But that's neither here nor there, I have a conversation with my dad. My dad is 81, and this is a reflection moment with my father. And I think my dad has been suffering from compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is something that a lot of people go through. Compassion fatigue happens a lot of times when you're constantly giving yourself and you're not recharging. And my dad's the kind of person that loves family. But I used to see times when my dad was growing up as a kid, he would work all day, and sometimes he would come home and cook because, he loved to cook. But, mama was just spoiled. And so when my mom passed away, I asked my dad, I said, are you okay? My dad was like, I'm good. And it was sort of weird because I know he loved my mom, but he really wasn't tripping about it. It was like, almost like a relief to some degree. And the feelings were somewhat mixed because, I've been crying off and on profusely because my mom brought me to this world, and I love my mom. And I've been having my mom in my heart for the last 20 years. But when my father told me that, he was good, it just reminded me that a lot of men carry the burdens of their families. They carry the burdens of always trying to please the women in their lives. They're carrying the burden of always giving their best, and their best is never good enough. And I'm not saying that my mom didn't appreciate my dad, but sometimes I don't think my dad will get what he deserved as a man. And I'll tell you guys a story. Many times, my dad was a blue-collar worker. He worked in the paper mill in eastern North Carolina. And many times the holidays would come, and we would ask the question, Dad, what do you want? And Dad would always say, I don't want anything. But I knew, that he really wasn't, as I got older, I realized he wasn't telling the truth. Men have conditioned themselves to sacrifice endlessly for their families and put their needs aside for the greater good of the relationship. And while that's good in theory, that's not practical, because in relationships, it must be symmetrical. You know, back in the 70s, Teddy Pendergrass made a song. He said, it's good to love somebody and somebody to love you back. But in America, you got a generation of entitled women that think that their worth is greater than your worth as a man. And because they think their worth is greater than your worth as a man, many times men forfeit their needs, desires, and wants for the sake of appeasing a woman. And so, as I get older, I understand my dad's struggles a lot more, because some of his struggles were my struggles. Some of his struggles were your struggles. And some of his struggles has led to a condition called compassion fatigue, something that many men struggle with. But you know, compassion fatigue in a practical framework is something that happens with therapists and caregivers. You get burnt out caring for people. And I think that's where my father was at. I know my dad loved my mom. I know my daddy is frustrated. And I know my dad is relieved, but at some point when my dad settles in, he's gonna have to deal with the stark reality in that lonely house that mama's gone. And so, you need to have a woman in your life that has been taught to love you, to make you feel important and special, and not getting with these modern women that are divas that always think about what's important for them. A lot of women in the West don't see men as human beings. They just see them as utilities to be used at their expense, and also to have their feelings minimized. Men, you weren't put on this planet to serve a woman that's entitled, disrespectful, and that does not reciprocate back to you in a good deed. Relationships are about reciprocity. I take care of you, and you take care of me. That's what relationships are like. I take care of you, and you take care of me. But sadly, we don't have that anymore. We don't have that anymore. We don't have that in these modern times. You know, the internet has made things get to the point where people feel like their need and their worth is greater than the person in their lives. And many times you see that in modern women. I'm not saying there are not some men like that as well. I'm sure there are men like that as well, but you don't hear men articulate it as much. And so I think my dad has been dealing with compassion fatigue. I think he's burnt out, because my father, being 81, a lot of times when my sisters and I weren't there, he was doing a lot of the caregiving, waiting on my mom hand and foot. And the day that she died and had a heart attack, he was there too. So I said all that to say this, is that men, you need to align yourself with women that can love you, respect you, and honor you. A woman that's going to pour into your life. A woman that's going to celebrate you. A woman that's not going to always try to guilt you into doing things for her, but she equally gives to you as you give back to her. The problem is, I don't think you're going to find that as much as you need to if you're an average guy. Even high-earning guys can't find that as much. And so I'm going to tell men to, you know, if you find it in America, fine. I hope you find a woman in your dreams. But sadly, due to the climate of modern women, due to the need of them to be hypergamous in nature, and also due to them not having the ability to self-reflect, and not having the ability to care about the needs of a man, I don't know if you're going to find it in America to the level that you need to be to have as a man. And so, you know, it got to come to a point where men got to start learning how to love themselves and focus on the things that's important to them, and not always putting everybody else before them. It's just in our nature to do. You know, it's in my nature to do. Some of you men that are listening, it's in your nature to do. But you got to get to a point that you're not constantly doing it or doing things at the expense of making someone else happy. Because when you're not getting respite in a relationship, when you're not getting that work-life balance that you need, it can lead to compassion fatigue. And a lot of men are suffering from compassion fatigue because they're in dysfunctional relationships. I want to leave you with this moment, or leave you with this response. As I said on the earlier show, you got one life to live. Tomorrow is not promised to no man. I experienced that about 4 weeks ago, where I could have lost my life. Even though I'm all right, but it could have been a lot worse than what it was. I walked out alive, which I'm grateful. And so, I just want to implore you, men, to focus on those things that are important. Reevaluate your value system. Reevaluate your circle. Reevaluate the people that are in your life. If you got a person that's constantly got their hand out, if you got a person in your life that always expect you to do something from them, they're energy vampires, they're parasites, and you need to run. Because like the late Kevin Samuel said, he's correct, men get tired. Men get tired, and I agree with him 100%. Because sometimes your children don't appreciate you for everything that you do. Sometimes your wives don't appreciate you. Sometimes your own parents don't appreciate what you do. And so I'm going to implore you guys on today to take the time to introspect, to every now and then to reflect in your journal and start to reevaluate what your value system is and also your boundaries are, and start putting people in your life around you that not only love you but respect you. Because if you don't get it, if you don't get the things that you need, you can have what's called an existentialist crisis. And then at that point, maybe you'll be in therapy, and I'll be using something called the Gestalt method, asking you the question, I'm okay, you're okay. Because a lot of times men, they're not okay. They're dysfunctioning because they're dealing with compassion fatigue. So you guys take it easy. And if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. Be well.